Hello everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain, I'm the host, and today I have Honourable Sheila Malcolmson, the NDP MLA for Nanaimo, joining me. Hello Sheila, welcome to my show.
I'm really glad to be with you, and I understand that I'm the first Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction to be on your show, so I'm
actually. Yeah, the sitting minister, the first sitting minister. We've had Shane on. What has it been, 3 or 4 times now? Shane Simpson.
3 or 4 times.
Three or four times. Yeah, and he's been great. But yeah, you're the first sitting minister.
This is wonderful.
He did it in retirement, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask, just selfishly, is Malcolmson a Scottish name? I was curious.
Well, we've been in Canada a long time, but it's from the Orkney Islands, so it's a little bit Scottish and a little bit Norwegian.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Like given by some Norwegian princess in a marriage arrangement or something like that.
I was curious because I'm Scottish as well, so I was kind of curious.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of Scottish in my background too, a little bit of Scottish, and it's it comes way back, they passed on generations to generations, and it's kind of neat. It's Sonia's Norwegian too. She's got a Norwegian name.
Right on. Yeah, there we go. So what are we going to talk about, Brent?
So today, Sheila, I'd like to talk about the new increase of $125 to the shelter portion that was historically, frozen for a long time, since 2007, and that's great. Like I applaud the government for increasing that to $500 maximum for PWD who are able to have that maximum 125. Unfortunately, like not everybody was able to have that $125. If your rent was exceeding that $375 threshold, then you would get that full 125, which people in market housing, obviously the rents are a lot more than that. You have to use your support portion to basically pay for the top up to your rent. So that, so I was able to get that 125, which is grateful. I'm very, very grateful to the ministry for that. However, you can't find housing for $500. So I had an idea that I'd love to pass it on. Now I wrote down all my little notes here. So right now they got the SAFERS program for the shelter aid for elderly renters under the BC housing umbrella. The rental assistance program is called RAP. So they basically will get 30% of their income, which is rent geared to income. Now, my suggestion would be to help the renters within the market housing for PWD, BC PWD, would be to have that extended over with a brand new program, kind of like SAFERS or RAP, but under that BC housing umbrella, so that they can still stay within their housing that they love to live in. If maybe they love the house that they live in, they could still stay there, but eliminate the shelter portion altogether, and then just make a new program so that the recipients can live with anywhere in BC, and they can still have their rent geared to income. And I think it would be fabulous because they could put that money back into the community that they live in, and they're not paying all that high market rent. And the landlords are still going to get their money end of the day. I spoke with my landlord, and she thought that was a brilliant idea, Brent. Because at the end of the day, we're still going to get our income for your rent, but you're not, as a recipient, wouldn't be paying out of your pocket. It would be subsidized with the government as a top up with that. And I said, okay. And so, that would be my one suggestion. Because there's so many people that are just struggling, trying to pay that market rent, and the prices, as we know, they keep going up. As soon as somebody leaves their unit, the rent goes up, and some of the landlords are just bragging about that, which is disgusting, right? I think it's wrong that they shouldn't be bragging. I mean,
because and we've talked about this before, Brent, too. I mean, now that the rates are it's $1,515 for a single person, right? That's the rates now, and so now that the rents or the shelter portion is fixed at $500, it basically is 30% of the full check. So in that way, it's geared to like the 30%, which is good. That's good. That the shelter is geared to, here's 30% of your full check is shelter. But unfortunately, the majority of people that on PWD are trying to find housing at market value, and there's no market value rents that are targeted at $500, right? Yeah. So on the one hand, you can say that's great that you've got the $500 that's 30% of the full check or the full income, which is great, but there are no market value rents available at $500.
Let me say two things. So one is 100%. It's the cost of housing is the hardest thing, and even though we have built like tens of thousands of new affordable units and more on the way, population growth, global inflation, it is hitting people hard, everybody hard, and the most vulnerable people get hit the hardest. So you totally hit the nail on the head. Even though we keep increasing rates, like this is the fourth time that we've increased social assistance rates since we formed government in 2017, but we know that people are still really feeling under so much pressure. So there's more for us to do for sure. So I would say, like, about your idea, Brent, I love how you think outside the box, and it's a really interesting question. It's one of those things that would take a cross-government conversation. Like, I get to control social assistance rates, so that's how we were able to get the shelter rate increased for the first time in, like, since 2007, I think, like a really long time. So, you know, if we were to look at SAFER or some of those other programs, that just means a broader conversation with the housing minister and others. So what we're doing right now, for the first time since 2002, is totally overhauling our income assistance legislation. Like, that was, you know, who was in government in 2002. So it was a different ideology, totally different time. And so we've been, that is happening. We got tons of input, and I'm really hoping that if people are really calling for it, and if I can, you know, we can make space in the legislative agenda, then we'll be bringing in new legislation, I really hope, this spring. And it'll get at some of those fundamental changes. Like, so far, we've just been working within an old structure and just adding more money to it. But this is time for systems change. And so if you haven't already sent that idea into my office for our legislative overhaul, please just write us a couple paragraphs and get it in, because we'd really like to consider new ways of doing work. This is our time, and time for us to kind of break out of quite an old mold and bring in some of the progressive things we've been hearing, especially like almost 80% of the people that have put their input into our poverty reduction strategy consultation and our legislative overhaul. They're all people who say we have lived experience of being in poverty. And so we're really getting good, credible content, and we're really determined to act on it. So thank you for the good idea.
Yeah, and thank you for answering that for me, Sheila. Because I mean, a lot of the terminology within the legislation in the ministry, it's archaic, as we know. You know, especially like one of the feedbacks I get a lot, and I see it on Twitter sphere, or we want to call it X now, or whatever. My logo just changed this morning. It's now X.
No longer the bird. Yeah.
But you know, and I get these feedbacks, and anyone listening to the podcast later on, like, I just want to, quickly say, like, I'm not able to answer all the questions to the minister today. is basically just doing an overview. But one of the ones that, Sheila, that really stood out a lot on the declaration form of people who have to declare income each month was, is there any outstanding warrants for your arrest? I mean, that was one of the big ones that stands out a lot. And about marriage equality too. And that'll be something that Neil is going to talk to you about also. But yeah, definitely warrants for your arrest. I mean, they'll say, well, I'm PWD. I mean, why are they asking these questions?
Because one thing I really want to give you kudos again, Sheila, is that I know it takes a lot of courage. The fact that you're a sitting minister to come on the show and take some slings and arrows. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to do so, right? And you have let Brent know that you're watching our show, and I know that Brent and I always tease that wouldn't it be great to have 1 million followers, right? But more than that, it's the who that's listing, right? And so as long as we're getting the VIPs and the MLAs and the MPs that are watching, that to me is the most important thing. And I just wanted to let you know, with regard to stigma, like I remember, I think it was about 3 months ago when you stood up in the legislature and you were talking about the stigma of the drug supply, which is a really important thing, of course. But I just wanted to expand that and say that the stigma of PWD social assistance is a huge thing too. There's lots of stigma associated with the way that the PWD social assistance system is currently set up. And one of those things, as Brent alluded to, is like, when's the last time you were in jail? And can you please empty your pockets of all your change and things like that? I mean, that's pretty, it's not respectful, to have that type of question and saying, can you please empty your pockets and things like that. That kind of stuff has to change, right?
Yeah. I'm hearing this a lot. I heard it before I was minister, and so now I'm in a position, that we're able to make some of those changes, and both in the poverty reduction strategy and also this legislative overhaul. We're getting really good ideas. Some of the things, I know Nick Simons, my friend and predecessor, he wanted to change, the legislation got in the way. And so this is where we're getting at the root of it. And so sometimes what seems like, let's just do this overnight, surely we can do this. It's, we're New Democrats, right? If we could have changed some of these systems already, we would have, with just the stroke of a pen. And so now it's taking us getting into the legislature, overhauling the legislation that was written at another time. And both the spousal support rule, we've been hearing about this for a long time. This is our opportunity to change that. And I know this is really of concern to the Premier as well. And I know Nick Simons really worked hard on that. Having to sign that you're not a criminal, it's like, obviously. So it's on our list for sure. Hey, but can I ask a question of you guys? This is back to the housing question. I was touring, this actually happened twice, that I've been in a new BC housing building that has got some units that are built for people with physical disabilities. Totally like wheelchair perfect, low counters and everything. And then the building manager says, actually, the reason I'm able to show you this room is that it's empty. We're having a hard time finding people. We're required to build a certain number of these types of really beautiful units. View of the ocean, like they're so great. They're super low rent, but they say they can't find the people to live in them. And so I wanted to reality check this with you guys.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I know.
Yeah.
Now they are, again, like built for someone that is in a mobility device. And they say, what, if there's somebody that is really, really, really short, then we can rent this unit to them as well, because the low counters make sense to them. But otherwise, we have a hard time finding tenants. Have you ever heard about this problem? And do you have any advice for me on that?
I haven't heard that at all.
I haven't heard anything about that. I do know that there is I know that there's a Twitter handle name out there. her name is Witchcraft, and she's reached out to the premier, our premier, and she's homeless right now, and I know she needs accessible housing
for like 2 months, right?
It's been
all
2
months.
Yeah. So I know she needs, but she has, I think, a service dog also, and she needs for accessibility wise. So maybe that would be something that she could utilize. I mean, ideally, I love short countertops because I'm not tall. So, but for me, I mean, I'm not in like a scooter like Neo or many others. But for me, accessibility wise, that would be ideal. And I can reach things easier.
Mm-hmm. You can come back. You can come back to the Vancouver or Langley.
That would be one thing, Minister, that I think it would be very helpful for so many that are needing that kind of housing if it's readily available. I'd like to see more of that type of housing getting built, because that way people can actually utilize the low income housing.
I had a friend who lives in North Van, and as you were saying, these are like 5-star. It's 5-star accommodation in these new builds. They devote like one floor to accessible low income individuals. But it's 5-star living for everybody else, right? So they just have like, what is it? 10% of the building has to be for PWD low income. But I toured her suite, and it's like everything is like to the nines, right? And so it's amazing that there are those subsidized suites available. It's just a shame that there's not more of them, or that, like you said, we can't have some sort of savers thing that we can make it fair that people that are paying market can get, kind of similar value for the dollar, that they have to pay.
We're building as quick as we can, and certainly COVID and all the global supply chain interruptions have been a challenge so far as being able to go as fast as we wanted. And when we started in a hole, I was told the previous government canceled all the affordable housing projects that were on the books when they took government in 2001. And so, we didn't do that when we came in. We carried on all their stuff and have added so much more. But we've also had 250,000 new people come to BC in just the last 2 months alone. And so it is really, it's an act of faith, to be able to see both that we've opened up a lot of new places, but also that the need is still intensely strong, and so we're building more. But like you said, Neil, the places that I've been able to tour, you can't tell which units are subsidized, which ones are not, and so that is part of that stigma piece too. And people will make neighbors and have friends who maybe are business owners and might be able to help them through their relationship. Oh, why don't you come and work for me? All those things about us not wanting to silo people or separate people that have faced barriers in the past. We want them to be connected with community and be able to have that full ability to engage in life, and not to be able to tell, who's in the subsidized place and who isn't. But we definitely, as we're building up all these places, we definitely want to get the best ideas about making sure that they actually fit people's needs. And so the feedback is really good. I am being called to another meeting, but I've really enjoyed talking with you guys, and keep the good ideas coming. And I look forward to our next conversation. You guys invited me on the show.
Yeah, I look forward to having you back on again very soon, Sheila, and we'll kind of continue where we left off on this for sure. I want to thank you so much, and everyone. I had Honourable Sheila Malcolmson from the BC Poverty Reduction joining me. Sheila is the MLA for Nanaimo, British Columbia. Sheila, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure having you on. I look forward to having you on.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thanks to you both. Bye, guys. Thank you for
your
work.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.